It still feels unreal to say, my dad kicked me out. At midnight. While his new wife was sleeping inside, pregnant with my half-sibling. There wasn't a single argument. No warning. One minute I was brushing my teeth. Next minute he's at my bedroom door, holding a packed duffel bag. I'm 18. I turned 18 exactly 4 days before this happened. I thought my life was just getting started. College in a few months. Part-time job. No criminal record, no trouble. But apparently me still living in that house was suddenly a problem. Let me back up. My mom passed away when I was 11. Car accident. It was just me and Dad after that. We weren't super close, but we got by. I did my chores. He worked long hours. We had a quiet routine. Then 2 years ago, he started dating again. Her name's Lacey. At first, Lacey seemed fine. A little fake maybe. Always posting on Instagram. Weirdly obsessed with keeping everything in the house spotless, even though it wasn't her house. I didn't think much of it until they got married 6 months ago. Suddenly things changed. Lacey started complaining about me leaving dishes in the sink. About my laundry pile. About me hogging the bathroom. Stuff my dad never cared about before. I tried. I really did. I kept my room clean. I stayed out of the way. But the atmosphere got colder and colder. Then 3 weeks ago, I found out Lacey was pregnant. Dad told me over dinner, smiling like he'd won the lottery. I forced a smile. Said congrats. Honestly, I wasn't even that mad. I figured, great, I'll have a little brother or sister. But Lacey's belly wasn't the only thing growing. Her attitude got worse. Dad stopped talking to me as much. I felt invisible in my own house. Until that night. I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when Dad knocked. Hey bud, he said quietly. Can I talk to you real quick? I sat up confused. Yeah. That's when I saw the duffel bag in his hand. My heart dropped. Dad? He walked in, set the bag on my bed. I packed up your things. I think it's time you start your own life. First, I laughed because it sounded like a bad joke. Are you serious? I asked. He wasn't smiling. You're an adult now, he said. Lacey and I need space. It's not good for the baby you being here all the time. You'll be fine. You've got that job, right? I worked part-time at a grocery store. Barely above minimum wage. No savings. No apartment. Dad, I don't even have anywhere to go, I said. You'll figure it out, he said. Starting your own life early is better for you in the long run. Those were his exact words. Like he was reading from some self-help book. The worst part? Lacey didn't even come out to say goodbye. 10 minutes later, I was standing outside on the front porch with that duffel bag. It was freezing cold. Midnight. I didn't have a car. Just my phone, my backpack, and that bag. I called my best friend Marcus. He lived with his mom across town. Thank God he picked up. That night, I slept on his living room couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd done something to deserve this. The thing is, I hadn't. That's what's messing me up. I didn't party. I didn't do drugs. I wasn't disrespectful. I just existed in a house my dad apparently didn't want me in anymore. Over the next few days, Marcus's mom let me stay. She's amazing. She even bought me some groceries. But here's where the twist happens. 2 nights after I moved in, Marcus told me something I wasn't ready to hear. He said, "Dude, my mom saw your dad on Facebook Marketplace." I frowned. Doing what? Selling your room. I thought he meant my stuff. But no. Turns out, my dad had already converted my bedroom into a nursery. They even painted over my posters and everything. That's why he wanted me gone. It wasn't about me starting my own life. It was about making space. I sat there staring at the phone, looking at pictures Marcus showed me. My bed was gone. My desk. My shelves. All replaced with a crib, pastel walls, and a rocking chair. I felt sick. It wasn't just being kicked out. It was being erased. Now 2 weeks later, I'm still at Marcus's. I'm looking for apartments. But part of me keeps wondering, am I wrong for feeling betrayed? Because my dad technically didn't do anything illegal. I'm 18. But emotionally? I don't know. That's why I'm here writing this. Am I the asshole for feeling like I got abandoned? And here's one last kicker. Yesterday Dad texted me. All it said was, "Hope you're settling in. Take care." That's it. No apology. No offer of help. Just cold. Like I was never his kid in the first place. Marcus's mom says I should focus on myself. Move on. But how do you move on from your own family treating you like an unwanted guest? That's where I'm at. I spent the next 3 days lying on Marcus's couch, staring at my phone like it might suddenly offer answers. There were no missed calls from Dad. No texts. Nothing. Marcus tried to get me out of the house. Come to the gym, man. Or play a game. Anything. I appreciated it, but I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept replaying that moment at midnight, over and over. My dad standing there with my duffel bag like it was nothing. By the 4th day, Marcus's mom sat down next to me. Her name's Diane. Sweetheart, you can't just sit here all day. You need a plan, she said. I know, I mumbled. Do you have anyone else? Grandparents? Aunt? Somebody? That question hit me harder than I expected. My mom's parents passed years ago. Dad's side, we never really talked. He wasn't close with them. No one, I admitted. She nodded, her face tightening with something between sympathy and quiet frustration. I don't want to overstep, she said gently. But your father, that wasn't right. I swallowed hard. Hearing someone else say it made the weight in my chest feel real. You can stay here for now, Diane continued, but you need to get on your feet, okay? Maybe file for emancipation or check if you qualify for some kind of assistance. You're legally an adult, but that doesn't mean the system just lets you drown. That night, Marcus helped me look up housing options. Shelters, job boards, shared apartments. Everything seemed impossible expensive. And then something else happened. I checked my Instagram. There was a new post from Lacey. A picture of her baby bump, perfect lighting, her hand resting delicately on top. The caption: Can't wait to welcome our little angel. New beginnings. New beginnings. I stared at it for so long my eyes blurred. That's when the comments caught my attention. One from someone named Karen, an old family friend. Where's Jake? Haven't seen him in a while. Lacey had replied. Oh, he's off doing his own thing now. Starting his own life. Like it was nothing. I don't know what snapped in me, but I messaged Karen privately. I told her everything. The midnight thing. The duffel bag. All of it. She didn't respond right away. But 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. Karen had posted on Facebook Public. A long post tagging my dad. So disappointed to hear what happened to Jake. Kicking your own son out the night he turns 18 just to make room for a nursery? Shameful behavior. Families should lift each other up, not throw each other away. I wasn't sure if I felt grateful or sick. The comments exploded. People I hadn't talked to in years suddenly had opinions. Some defended my dad. Others dragged him. And then, Dad texted me again. Just 3 words this time. We need to talk. Marcus was sitting next to me when I got the text. You gonna answer? He asked. I didn't know. But Diane overheard and came over, arms folded. If you go over there, she warned, make sure someone knows where you are. People like that, they don't always play fair. I wasn't sure what she meant exactly, but I nodded. The next afternoon, I agreed to meet Dad. Neutral ground, a local diner. When I walked in, he was already at a booth. No Lacey, thankfully. His face was hard to read. Tired. Maybe guilty. Maybe just annoyed. Hey, he said. I slid into the booth but didn't answer. There was a long silence before he spoke again. I didn't mean for things to go down like that, he said finally. It just Lacey's been really stressed with the pregnancy. And we needed space. You needed space, I said quietly. So you threw me out. He rubbed his jaw like he didn't know how to answer. I thought you'd figure it out, he muttered. Dad, I said slowly, voice shaking. I had nowhere to go. I gave you a bag, he said, like that made it okay. Your essentials. A bag. A single duffel bag. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. Do you even care? I asked finally. At all. His face darkened for a split second, and that's when I saw it. He wasn't really sorry. He was embarrassed. That Facebook post had gotten to him. This isn't about caring, he said. It's about survival. For the baby. For Lacey. For the family. Family, I repeated bitterly. Guess I don't count anymore. I didn't say that. But you did not say it either, I shot back. He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, but then he stopped. Finally, after a long pause, he pulled something out of his pocket. An envelope. I set this aside for you, he said, sliding it across the table. It's not much, but it'll help. Inside was a check. $1,500. I stared at it. It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't forgiveness either. I'm not coming back, I said quietly, pushing the envelope toward him. Dad looked genuinely surprised. You don't have to. I'm serious, I said. I'll figure things out. On my own. Like you wanted. The weight in my chest lifted just a little as I said it. Dad sighed and leaned back. I guess that's fair. That was the last real conversation we had. When I got back to Marcus's, Diane gave me a long hug. I won't lie, I almost cried right there. Over the next week, things started moving faster. Marcus's mom helped me find a shared apartment not too far away. Small room. Cheap rent. But it was mine. I signed up for extra shifts at the grocery store. Even applied for financial aid to start community college early. It wasn't easy. I won't pretend it was some perfect happy ending. But it was a beginning. And maybe that's all I really needed. 2 weeks after moving into my tiny room, I realized something strange. The silence felt heavier than when I was living with Dad and Lacey. At least there, even if I felt invisible, I wasn't truly alone. Now it was just me, my backpack, a creaky bed, and the buzzing fridge in the shared kitchen. The apartment wasn't much. 3 bedrooms. 1 bathroom with a busted lock. The walls smelled faintly of old cigarettes no matter how much air freshener I used. My 2 roommates were older guys. One worked night shifts, barely spoke. The other, Corey, was around 25, with too many tattoos and a constant chain of girlfriends stopping by. Still, it was a roof. That first night, I sat on the edge of my mattress with my head in my hands, feeling the weight of everything settle in. I really was starting over. I really didn't have a family anymore. The next few days blurred into a loop of work, sleep, and awkward small talk with Corey. Then something happened I didn't expect. Kara, the family friend who'd posted about me on Facebook, called. Her voice was gentle but serious. Jake, she said, have you heard from your grandparents? I frowned. I don't have grandparents. No, your dad's parents. Your grandma Evelyn and grandpa Stan. I sat up straighter, confused. Dad said they moved away years ago, I said slowly. Karen's silence stretched. Jake, they're still in the same house. 2 towns over. I had coffee with your grandma just last month. My stomach dropped. What? I thought you knew, she said softly. Your dad, he cut them off after your mom passed. Why? Again, silence. Karen lowered her voice like she didn't want anyone else to hear. Evelyn didn't like Lacey. It was like the world tilted sideways. I had family. Real family. And my dad had kept that from me all these years. Karen texted me their number. I stared at it for a full hour before working up the nerve to call. It rang 3 times. Then, hello. A woman's voice. Soft. Warm. Is this Evelyn? Yes. My throat closed up for a second. It's Jake, I said finally. Jake, your grandson. The silence that followed hit me harder than any slap. Oh my God, she whispered. 20 minutes later, we were still on the phone. I told her everything. She cried. Actually cried. I thought you didn't want to see us, she kept saying. Your father told us to stay away. He said you didn't need us. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt hollow. I didn't even know you were still here, I admitted. By the end of the call, Evelyn made me promise something. You come see us, okay? We want you here. I hung up, shaking. When Marcus came by later that night, I told him everything. Dude, he said, eyes wide. That's crazy. I nodded slowly. You gonna go? He asked. I didn't even hesitate. Yeah, I said. I have to. The next morning, I packed my things and caught the bus 2 towns over. It felt surreal. Like stepping back into a part of my life I didn't know existed. Their house was exactly how I pictured it. White porch. Overgrown garden. Wind chimes in the breeze. When Evelyn opened the door and saw me standing there, her face crumpled. She pulled me into the tightest hug I've ever had in my life. Grandpa Stan was right behind her. Older. Slower. But when he clapped me on the back, it felt solid. Real. For the first time since Mom died, I felt anchored. We spent the whole afternoon talking. Evelyn made tea. Stan showed me old photo albums. Pictures of me as a toddler. Ones I didn't even remember existed. They kept them all. They'd kept everything. Turns out they tried calling for years after Mom passed. Letters. Voicemails. But Dad shut it all down. Changed his number. Moved. Cut all ties. I wasn't sure if I wanted to cry or scream. The most painful part? Knowing how different things could have been. If I'd had them in my life all this time, maybe I wouldn't have felt so alone. That night, I stayed in the guest room. It smelled like lavender and dust, but it was the safest I'd felt in months. Before bed, Evelyn knocked on the door. "Sweetheart," she said, "I know you've got your own place now, but you're always welcome here. This is your home too." That did it. I cried. For real this time. Not just silent tears. Ugly, shaking sobs. She sat next to me until I fell asleep. The next morning I texted Dad. One sentence. "I found Grandma and Grandpa." No reply. 2 hours later, though, I saw that he'd seen it. Read. No response. And honestly, that was fine. Because I didn't need him to answer anymore. I had people who wanted me. The next few weeks were better than I could have imagined. Evelyn helped me get set up with a proper bank account. Stan introduced me to one of his old friends who ran a hardware store. I picked up extra shifts there when I wasn't working at the grocery. Slowly, I started building something real. A life. My life. One night, about a month later, I was sitting on the porch with Stan. He smoked his pipe. I watched the sunset. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Sure." "Why did Dad cut you off?" Stan's face went tight. "It wasn't just about Lacey," he said after a minute. "Your father, he's always been proud. Too proud. When your mom died, he didn't want help. From anyone." I nodded slowly. "But I always figured he'd come around," Stan added. "Guess not." Neither of us spoke for a while after that. Later that night, I checked my Instagram again. Lacey had posted another baby update. This time, though, the comments were brutal. People had found out. Karen's post had made waves. Even some of Lacey's friends were turning on her in the comments, calling her selfish, heartless. And maybe it was petty of me, but I smiled. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wasn't invisible anymore. The next morning, Evelyn handed me a small box. Inside were my mom's things. A bracelet, old letters, pictures, and tucked in the bottom a note addressed to me, written before she died. It said, "If you ever feel lost, remember you're loved." That was it. Simple. But it broke me all over again. And healed me too. That night, as I fell asleep in my real bed, under a real roof, surrounded by real family, I finally felt okay. Not perfect. Not whole. But okay. And sometimes that's enough. About 2 months after reconnecting with my grandparents, something happened that I genuinely didn't expect. My phone rang, and it was my dad. I was sitting on the porch again like I usually did after dinner with Evelyn and Stan. The sky was turning gold and purple. My stomach twisted seeing his name flash on the screen. For a second, I thought about ignoring it. I owed him nothing. But I answered. "Hello." There was a pause. Then his voice. "Jake." Flat. Low. "I heard you've been staying with my parents. That a problem?" I asked quietly. "No," he said too fast. "No, I figured I should check in." I stared out at the horizon, feeling the weight of his words. "Why now?" I asked. "After all this time." Dad sighed. I could hear it in the quiet scratch of the receiver. "Lacey had the baby," he said finally. "It's a girl." For some reason, that hit me harder than I thought it would. "A girl," I repeated. "Yeah." Another long pause. "We named her June." June. Pretty name. But all I could picture was my old room, now a nursery. My posters ripped down. My bed replaced by a crib. "Congratulations," I said stiffly. "Thanks." Silence stretched again. I could almost hear his thoughts turning, working up to whatever he was really calling about. Finally, he said it. "I've been thinking about what I did. I didn't handle it right." "No shit," I wanted to say. But I kept quiet. "I thought I was doing what made sense for everyone," he continued. "But I get it now. I shouldn't have pushed you out like that." My throat tightened, but I forced myself to speak. "I didn't just need space, Dad. I needed family." He let out another breath. This time it sounded heavier. "I know," he said quietly. There was something in his voice I hadn't heard in months, maybe years. "Regret." I don't expect you to forgive me, he said next. But if you ever want to come by see the baby, you can. I didn't answer right away. I watched as Stan came outside, pipe in hand, nodding at me like he knew who I was talking to. I'll think about it, I said finally. That was the truth. I wasn't ready to walk back into that house yet. But maybe someday. After I hung up, I told Evelyn and Stan about the call. Evelyn just shook her head softly. Your father's stubborn, she said. But maybe he's learning. Maybe, I said. Later that week, I went back to work at the hardware store. Things were steady now. A routine. But the biggest surprise came on a random Wednesday afternoon. I was restocking shelves when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned, expecting a customer. Instead, it was Marcus. He grinned, holding up a coffee in each hand. Surprise, he said. I didn't even know what to say. We hadn't seen each other since I'd moved. I figured it was time I checked out this fancy new life of yours, he added. We stepped outside, sat on the curb, sipping cheap coffee while I told him everything. Meeting my grandparents. Dad's call. Marcus just listened, nodding like only real friends do. I'm glad you're good, man, he said finally. For real. That's when something hit me. I wasn't angry anymore. Not like before. The hurt was still there, sure. But it wasn't sharp. It was dull now. Bearable. That night I sat down in my new room, a real room with posters on the walls again, my own desk, my own bed. And I opened my phone. I wrote a post. Not to shame anyone. Not to get revenge. Just to tell my story. For feeling abandoned after my dad kicked me out at midnight when his new wife got pregnant. I explained everything from start to finish. And when I hit post, I felt lighter. The comments started rolling in almost immediately. Most people said I wasn't the asshole. Some shared their own stories. But one comment stuck out. It said, sometimes the family we start with isn't the family we end up with. But that doesn't make it any less real. I saved that one. Printed it out. Taped it to my wall. Because whoever wrote it understood exactly what I'd learned the hard way. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when you need them. The ones who don't pack your life into a duffel bag at midnight. The ones who open the door and say you're home. And I was. Finally. Home.